Okay. We got this page and a half to go, new memory card. I want to try to wrap this up with this because this is twice as long as I was hoping that it would be. And I covered a lot of this stuff, okay? I was hoping that I could narrow it down more to see. This is mainly just for me to heal, okay? It's not to upset anybody. I want to heal. I want to be whole. And I want to be here today, thankful. And I want to try to have the desire and the hope within myself to move forth in the direction of life that I would desire to be. Okay? Using my talents, my music, and myself to simply be happy, share life with others, and pursue musical endeavors. And what I'm getting at, and if you listen, you will find out that I realized I am being targeted through electronic harassment. I'm convinced that people in show business have been using me as a resource for years. For people that maybe you came across this video and you're watching on television, or you're a big supporter and fan of their ministry, of their musical endeavors, movie endeavors. Okay? When you share content and put it online, your music, your life story and stuff, at that point, you've left it released to the world. However, when people are playing out, invading your privacy, and they're using you as a resource without your consent or approval, in my opinion, that is criminal. And there should be serious consequences against people who have the means to do that. Now we are starting to understand how it's possible the rich of the earth get richer and richer and the poor become more and more oppressed. Wake up. Realize that the life that we have been taught our whole life may or may not be a complete illusion of something that is not real at all. God is. Ask your local school why they would want to take God out of school. If it is true that every word is God and God is word, isn't it true that you could never take God out, and therefore they're instilling into your mind things that may or may not bring you life of enjoyment, peace, contentment, fulfillment? It may be nothing more than a misleading ship. And you've misdirected your whole entire life away from every one of your heart's desires. Might be. I have my feelings on going to public schools and the way that they have been ran in the past. And in my opinion, it's a channel of separation from the family into a falsehood of education to consume life. Because by the time you graduate, what can you do with that graduation? Have you ever noticed that by a certain grade it seems like you pretty much know what you've been taught on the first couple years of your life? And do you go to college? Do you go to training school? If you go to college, when you get done with college, is that job still available? Do you need more training? Did you come to planet Earth when you were born? Have you ever wondered, was I born into this world so I could become educated every day and year for the rest of my life? Or did I actually come here to fulfill my heart's desires and live the life that's right for me? Why would I have to continuously be educated? Didn't I learn enough when I went through 12 years of schooling, plus kindergarten, maybe daycare? Something to consider. A gentleman had lived there with his teenage child. This was before I ended up getting this place. When I went back to Ohio, I had a couch sitting where I spoke to my daddy and this gentleman. There was an agreement that I could stay living there for 3 years. But in 3 years, I had to get my life straightened out. Now, I just opened up my life story, my heart, shared my whole entire life journey, my life story online. I called it the Catch-Up Series. And here's the thing. I already know I can't get work. Especially a means that, well, I can actually live on. Did you ever feel like that? Why am I going to work for a salary that, till taxes are taken out and it's all said and done with transportation going to work, I don't have anything at all. I'm lucky to have $20, $30. How are you going to eat and survive with that? Well, can I tell you, if you're out there and you're going through things, did you ever think of low income for now? There are other means if you go to your local county office. There's food pantries. There's churches that will actually help in the assistance area with like electricity or, some of your other utilities and needs that you have. They might not be able to help house you, but they will be able to help a little bit with your food and helping out with your utilities, okay? And maybe even your car in your time of need. Okay? So I'm not thinking like this, and I don't really have a whole lot of people to talk to. This person that was there, I really, really valued. Number one, I felt safe. A very strong person. Been through a lot theirself. Told me quite a few stories. I will not share those stories because I'm sharing my life story. But I'm going to be honest with where I was at that time. His personality seemed a lot more tougher than somebody like myself could probably endure over a long season of time of living somewhere. So I learned this. Tracilyn, mind your own business, tend to what you're supposed to tend to, and get focused on your life. I didn't know what to do, so I continued to busk. I continued to make recordings. I call them the Huber Heights recordings in the one studio. We worked it out that I could be in the one room. I have pictures. I did my, your ways are much higher than mine. Your love right on time. Never failing you. Desire a willing heart. In my video when I'm in red, that was my second recording studio at the house. I really wanted to convert that into a master suite room, like a hotel room, similar to that, even with my own little bathroom, and make it my studio because I realized I need to invest a lot of time in my art because it's the only therapeutic means that I have. I can't really do a whole lot of other things, can't get work and stuff. I don't know what to do. Should I network with other people online? What should I do? Well, here's the thing. I had a real hard time being online when I came out here, originally because I was in the entertainment industry for over 7.5 years. I did all of it, a majority of it. I did it by myself. Then I was an adult entertainer for, since 2007-ish, maybe 2008-ish. And with that being said, I think it was 2008. With that being said, that was to me a lot of years of putting out content of myself, meaning I'm taking self-portraits. I didn't really do videos at the time. Doing my music, I wanted to find my actual singing voice. So I wanted to work with the songs that I have written since I came to Ohio, and I wanted to redo some of the songs that I recorded in the past and I was never satisfied with. Mainly because I didn't care for my worldly self. And I'm grateful to say to you today that I didn't. I didn't like my worldly self. A worldly self is something that takes shape and becomes the you that the whole world around you, well, from what they capture with their 5 senses from you, their likes and dislikes about you, the way they see you, the way they perceive you. Well, here's the thing. Once I surrendered to Jesus Christ and reading the Holy Bible and honesty, this might be a bad example, but I became different. Okay? Instead of being depressed and more of a dark kind of personality, I became more vibrant. And, man, I really appreciate and love life much differently just being myself. I love my spiritual self, is what they would call it, versus my worldly self I did not like at all. The problem is, as a spiritual self, I'm finding it very challenging, like most people, in a lot of situations, to be able to provide for myself. I don't want to be a nuisance to people and constantly having to live with people and then get kicked out because I can't submit to their ideas of who I should be, or for whatever reason. Okay, there was a lot of the shuffling for years for me. So I spent a lot of time with the Huber Heights recordings, and I was very, 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 very proud of those recordings that were becoming. I was becoming more secure with my singing voice, my playing style. I found my key by that time. I sing in the key of F, by the way, and every song that I do is I sing in the key of F, unless I want to experiment and try something different. Which to me was kind of a weird experience because I tuned down my acoustic guitar a whole step, meaning instead of E on the low E string, I go down to D. And then I use the G chord formations, or I'll capo it on the 3rd fret, and then I'll use like the E chord progression, depending on what I'm playing of my songs. I also realized that when I was doing music as a business before, even though I was doing a 50 or 60% of my songs and I was doing a lot of covers, it's a very high in demand for people to ask or request to hear songs they're familiar with. Cover songs is what we call them in the music. When it comes to live performances, you're doing cover songs, somebody else's music, while you're singing. With that being said, there's a high demand for people to sing cover songs because the socialized condition is they want to hear familiar songs that they can already know and they can sing along with, and songs they heard on the radio or their whole entire life. I don't want to get started on this subject right now, but can I tell you that if you're listening to songs you've been listening to for 30 years or since your childhood, and you're playing them over and over and over and over again, you might have a suffering of a stuck mode. I'm not saying that you do, but you may. If you were to study in psychological realms, you would most likely realize that this is not healthy for anybody's mind to be dominantly focusing on the same music year after year after year after year after year after year. And I don't want to get into that right now, but it's a subject that I can most certainly talk to you about because I understand what I went through. And until you let go of all of the commercial music you've been listening to your whole life, turn off the television set, and step away from society's, the masses, of their perception of world and life, and you give yourself some quality time alone, you won't understand a thawing, I call it a thawing, that happens to the mind. And it's the truth, the reality of it is you start to realize things that you would never realize if you stay in that place where you're continuously listening to things on television, continuously listening to the same songs, recording artists, if you will. It bugged me for years why people would support bands like Bon Jovi all of these years. What made him more special than anybody else? Can I ask you that if you're a Bon Jovi fan? I was. In my childhood years, I was a huge Bon Jovi fan, and I got pushed around because of that. Okay? Because people that liked what they perceived as tougher bands, if you will, would say that Bon Jovi was gay and stuff like that. And it made me feel kind of bad because it was my favorite recording band at the time for years. And I myself, I seen Bon Jovi through Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, probably like 3 times I seen them. And I always had a great time. I had a lot of wonderful things that I said about the band and the performance and the live performance. You know, I already talked about that stuff. I don't want to talk about it again. But the truth of the matter is, as a recording artist myself, I would think to myself, what makes him more special than anybody else? Why do certain bands end up being in existence for 30, 40 years? The same people that were on my bedroom wall on posters when I was 13, why are they still around all these years, but other bands are not really, or they're doing smaller venues or different venues? How's that? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever wondered why bands like that are still singing songs that you heard in the mid to late 80s, all these years later? Because in my perception, I would say that if a band has been around for 30 or 40 years, they should be able to write all brand new material and go on tour because they have the experience of recording year after year after year, the live performances. They should be able to ditch out brand new songs, you know, on an album and go on tour and play those. Were you ever disappointed when you went to see a band and they aren't necessarily playing the new material as much as they're playing the older material? It depends where you are in life. Some people say, I love the older material. I would love to hear that over and over and over again. Do you really want to be singing the same songs for 30 years? Can I ask you something? If you knew that there were other songwriters like myself that through the denial in the music business, the harshness of publishers, producers, record companies, recording artists, you're reaching out to, would you give a person some advice or a hand? And then you found out years later that most likely you're being used as a resource and you were brought to near death several times. And it was because in general, not just in music, you couldn't have the means. The songs I have, if you understood royalties, and you understood mainstream commercial music, you'd realize that there's no reason why Tracilyn should have ever, so long as I had a good accountant, been homeless. Financial advisor. Not near as bad as what I went through. Well, for somebody like me, it really upsets me to find out that it could be very possible that these people in mainstream find people like the father of rock and roll that are going through extremely challenging times in their personal life and may have an illusion of some sort that they have some kind of mental challenge, societal outcast. Don't you think if that person had amazing songs, that they would be a prime target for all their ideas, for their songs, basically for their life? I'm here to convince, or not to convince, I'm here because I am convinced to share with you that sometime I would love to have a talk with you about that. Because I'm personally sick of walking into a retail store, or a truck stop, or a restaurant, or an elevator, or turning on my car radio, and I hear songs by people who recorded when I was 13 years old, they were on the radio. And I'm a recording artist, and my song, I got one song on the radio. I got 2 or 3 on the radio, local radio, several times. Why are these people more special and worthy of a paycheck than the other recording artists of our generation? Can you answer that? When you go to another Bon Jovi concert, why don't you approach the stage and ask him that? What makes him worthy of the ticket prices that they are charging at their concerts? Tell him Tracilyn wants to know. Because I remember when they were $17.50 and $27.50. I wish I still had the ticket stubs. I don't know what they are now, but I do know that recording artists have gone crazy with their ticket prices and their merchandise. And all it is a name on a t-shirt, a name on a poster. In human form, nobody is more beautiful than any other human form. Their music's not any better than anyone else's. What makes them so special? I don't know. Maybe these are questions the next time you go to a concert you should ask these people. I think it would be very interesting to hear what they have to say and reply. Because in my opinion, I don't feel they're more responsive or they're more worthy than anyone else. I don't feel they're more talented. I don't feel they're more better looking than anyone else. I think new laws should come into order. And the bottom line is, if you've been given a decade of commercialized support, then you have more than enough to work with for the rest of your existence. I know what it's like to work the barroom circuit, smaller clubs, being your own promoter, being your own road crew. I know the details of everything, booking agent. You name it. And let me tell you, I had to go through my own pain and suffering for somebody who had a lot of desire. I wanted to play, I wanted to perform every night, travel, just like my old recording heroes, who are no longer my heroes, because I've come into new acknowledgments that I will eventually touch base on. But I will tell you that I have been deterred knowing that still today we're listening to an Aerosmith song that was on the radio 20 years ago. And I understand royalties, and royalties is somebody's receiving a paycheck. Okay, look at the ticket prices. Look at the merchandise prices. Why are they worthy of that kind of income? And the rest of us are what? Going through a McDonald's drive-thru for the dollar menu? Come on. Something's not right. That needs to be straightened out. Anything that I'm talking about now, I will most certainly have no problem saying it to the faces of the peoples of the names that I mention. I don't like to fight. I never had a problem with any of the recording artists per se until most recently, after meeting Stephen, and I realized that I was being monitored very closely for years, at least since I was an escort. And I have reached out and reached out. I have reached out. And I know that they're all connected to each other. They call themselves a family. And I met a lot of recording artists who told me lots of stories that I will not share, but they shared with me, and it all came together being out here in Dayton, Ohio, when I realized I was being watched. I do not want to be used as a resource, especially by people in mainstream industry. This guy that I was living with at this time, who was head of house, had a kid. And can I tell you, I loved that kid. The most memorable moment for me with him was when he stepped out of his bedroom, which was my first bedroom, into the hallway, and he knocked on my door. He wanted to show me himself dressed in a suit and tie. It made me cry. He was very, very, very handsome. I wanted to be a motherly type figure in his life. I have heard that he's going to be in the military. And if there's anybody in the military, I'm not going to say who it is. If there's anybody in the military, please look over him. Guide him. Make him strong. Make sure he's well provided for. Don't turn him into a man. Turn him into someone that Mama would be very proud of. Whoever his mother is, his father too. Help him to be proud of himself, his country, Americans. I was very relieved to find out that that's where he went. At first I didn't care for it too much, even though I myself wanted to date a military man. I did, for a season. And it was because I cared about him. I didn't want nothing to ever happen to him. It's not because I didn't feel that he wasn't capable. It's just that I wanted to make sure that he was being true to his heart. What did he really want to do with his life? That being said, he played a lot of video games. He was going through his own challenges that I will not talk about. But one of those challenges I will, and that is the guy that I was living with while I was staying in the room across had a tendency to beat this child. And I don't mean just beat. It was pretty brutal. And there's no words that can be said. When you're in the room, you know the owner of the house has you in an awful predicament that if you speak up or you do something about it, you call the cops, then you're going to be asked to move, Tracilyn. God, get me out of this one. Joyce, what do you think? I'm going to ask Joyce what she thinks often because, in my opinion, most of her teachings left out very, very, very valuable information. As I was scientifically trying to put it all together to digest it in a manner that was beneficial for life, period. And we're going to talk about some of this in the near future. Know that I explained that I heard my mother beaten really bad on Chestnut Street, and she almost died. And I walked in and I seen her with burn marks on her neck, her eyes rolled up in her head. Now I'm laying in my bedroom, frustrated because I want to go in that room and stop what's happening. I had to let it go. And I heard that kid scream in agony, pain, begging him to stop. This happened several times. I minded my own business. I already knew what I was up against. What would have you done? It's easy to say I would have just went over and done whatever, or it's easy to say I would have just packed up and left. It's easy to say I would just call 911. I was facing all kinds of things. The last thing I needed was to be pushed into this situation where I know naturally I would have just thrown the man off of the child, possibly out of the window, because I don't approve of people beating a kid like that. And all I could think about is how the cops were with me. If I do something like that, am I going to go to jail for life, officers? If I don't call the cops, what's going to happen to me now? What's Daddy going to do? Is he going to throw me out? Or is he going to thank me? At that time, we were all going through a lot. Unfortunately, the child and I's relationship started off really good. But I started realizing serious changes in him. And I also realized that rather than me taking him to school anymore, I used to love that. I let his father know I would do whatever is going to be helpful. I care about his son. I want his son to have the very best. If he needs to go somewhere, I'll take him. So I didn't mind. Sometimes I made him walk to school. Because I kind of felt like he was sort of taking advantage and I wanted to keep him in check. But it didn't go without me saying, I'll pick you up after. He was fighting through his own battles like we all were mentally. Depression, personality disorders, bipolar, you name it, PTSD. We're all traumatized. I don't want to ride that anymore. I forgive the situation, but it's one I will never, never forget. Confused, hurt, lost, angry. I still cared about both of them. It's the action I didn't care for. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do except for mind my own business. I guess it's not my right. What do you think, Joyce? Do you think I should have had any say in it? You think I should have prayed to God? What do you think I should have done? With that being said, I stayed busy working on my music. Just stay focused on the music. I didn't know what I was going to do. At some point, I was busking in town, and this guy rode up to me on a bicycle. And he talked to me for a while, and he said, "Have you ever thought of getting a form of public assistance?" And he said that's what he did in his time of need. In other words, I'm suffering greatly. I need the help. I tried doing it on my own. I tried doing it many different ways. This is not working. Maybe instead of the police officer in York County Police Department, maybe instead of pressing false charges against me for prostitution, he could have had a social worker there that day. And we could have talked kindly. And I could have spilled my heart out to her that day. And maybe she could have said, "How about you keep the hotel room tonight? You stay here and we'll help you get your needs met." You see, officer from York, Pennsylvania, when you pressed those charges that were not real, I never agreed to exchange sex for money. I wouldn't be that stupid. It created a lot of issues in my life. Numerous ones to list. Thousands of dollars, lawyers, humiliation. The police department itself humiliated me that day I got fingerprinted. What do you think of that? Think that's funny? I could have sued. Big time if I could have got the right lawyer. If you're out there and a police officer presses false charges on you, stand your ground and get a support system if you can. But like I myself, you might find yourself in a situation nobody will support me. I know. What do we do about this? We can't let cops do that to us. And we can't let a police station filled with cops disrespect us when we go in to be fingerprinted for a crime we didn't even commit. I think, personally, the York County Police Department owes me an apology. If you were to look at the cameras that day I got fingerprinted, you would see the policemen and the staff opening up the door and laughing at me. I did not need that in my life. And as a United States citizen, that was very disrespectful. Why don't you call me the next time you're on your sting operation for the escorts? And I'll go with you. And I'll talk to them. Find out where they're at in life. What do they need? Because it could be true, they don't really want to do that. Maybe they just need somebody to stand in front of them and share that there is a God. And they are cared for. And there are other alternatives, right, Mr. and Mrs. Government? So, I went back to the house and I was talking in the kitchen like within a few days. And it came up in conversation about what I was talking about on the street, getting my needs met. And I asked the guy that was staying there, "Will you please?" I pulled him aside privately because it didn't seem like Daddy wanted me to get needs met any other way, but I had to figure it out on my own. And can I tell you, he got right on it. This gentleman helped me. And my mind was weak and it was foggy and it overwhelming, consuming paperwork. Detail-oriented he was. He was my strength during this time. He was my leader. I did the very best I could. He had to help me. I sat with him. He taught me a lot. I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot. Chances are he's going through very similar things with this electronic harassment that I am. I'm sure that his son is probably being targeted. Not because of me, not because of him. I believe that a lot of people are targeted for all kinds of reasons. Low income, the masses in general. Could have been a court case or something. for some reason, there are people that want other people rid from the earth, and they will harass them, make their life more and more difficult. I believe when I was going to high school, that when I was reading, I believe that my mind was electronically harassed in an oppressive state. Maybe all of us were. That when you read, you couldn't concentrate. Do you notice a lot of low grade averages in your local high school or junior high? Maybe they're combating somebody who's combating them. I wouldn't say that it's in the school system, would I? In the buildings. Maybe it's someone on an outside force. Why are there so many Americans in an oppressive state? I have a lot of case scenarios where I would agree that we are targeted ever since childhood in a means that we can have a little bit of life, but we can't really have a magnificent life. And some people may say, I have a magnificent life and I'm happy for you. I really am happy for you. And I believe a magnificent life is on the way for me, but I realize it's going to be going with a battle. People invading your privacy, people removing content from the social networks, people stealing files out of your, Dropbox and stuff like that, storage bins. Not only did I have my legal documentation taken from me for my orchidectomy, but I also realized at some point, was I there or when I got in my new apartment, a copy of my birth certificate was missing. You see, I went to Pennsylvania because I was excited. I had my orchidectomy performed. And in the state of Pennsylvania, which is not like the state of Ohio, it is recognized that your thought process, mine was female, why I had an outie, a penis between my legs. They judged it by a penis and said it's a boy who should be a man, but the psychologist never got into my head and acknowledged she identifies as female. With that being said, the birth certificate was stated male. I had to live up to that. In time, I ended up, and I shared this already, so I don't want to be stuck on this, but I went back to Pennsylvania to provide copies from my psychologists and my doctors and all the required paperwork that I needed to submit, and I had happily, very proudly, had my birth certificate corrected in alignment with my mind, not a small little body part. Thank you, Pennsylvania. Ohio is stubborn with that. I don't appreciate it. If I would have been born here in Ohio, that would mean that I couldn't have done this part of my transition that overwhelmed me with joy, happiness, peace, contentment. Shall I go on? I think Ohio should reconsider that aspect. What do you think? Are you a transsexual? And you just heard that there are other states that are for the transsexual female transition in manners that Ohio isn't? Then you need to stand your ground, unify. Bills, handwritten laws can be altered at any time. All it takes is a signature, some documentation typing. Man-made laws are not God laws. Okay? A lot of men, not all of them, a lot of man-made laws keep us in bondage. They can be altered when people stand up and politely voice. Okay? We should not be the caboose of the country. I come from a city that is known for aviation, innovation. Okay? I don't like hearing stories from other transsexuals, especially females. and I get to share my exciting news. All my legal documentation, even my GED, the GED school that I went to in Harrisburg, very, very kind lady at the front desk. She was excited to give me a new diploma with my new name on it and identifying myself as female. I was nervous going through all this, and I felt like God was there with me the whole time, helping me to make this right. So all that has been straightened out, with the exception of the Lebanon Senior High School, who would not have anything to do with it, because they say I never graduated, but they wouldn't change it in their filing system because, in their opinion, I was a boy at the time. No, I always identified as female since birth, you idiot. It just went undiagnosed until later years. Mr. Disrespectful. Not that big of a deal. To you, to me, it was pretty big. And also the Lebanon County Career School for Trucking. I used to be a truck driver. They would not respect and honor it. 2 places. Outside of that, everybody else was really cool, which makes them 2 people, 2 places, look uncool. You know. Actually, they make themselves look uncool because they weren't willing to hear me out. It's not a trend that has started in this country. It's the reality of acknowledgement. These are a lot of information that has been kept from us. I never learned anything about it in school. Hopefully today they are, because I'm going to call Lebanon High School, Lebanon Senior High School, and I'm going to ask them, are you informing and teaching the children that we are transitional existences and that our identity starts here, not with a body part? Very important, valuable information to get us through this life, especially happily fulfilled. So, I don't want to carry on too much with this situation. It was challenging to hear that. I mind my own business. There was distance that grew. The child started to complain. I was trying to get close to him. I realized, stay distant. He didn't really want affection as far as emotional hugs or anything. I think I'm lucky if I got a hug or 2 out of him the whole time that I seen him. And if I ever did see him again, I would want a hug. I would like to see him graduate, to be honest, from boot camp or whatever they call it in the military now. I would love to see that. And I would love to be there and clap for him. I will mentally, no matter where it is or when it is. And I hope someday I get to give him a hug in the years to come. That means we're all still around. So, and I really care about his father. And I really understood deeply that he was going through his own things. I really enjoyed our conversations together while we had coffee. He taught me a lot about juicing, and I value that still to this day. I juice and I think of what he taught me. As silly as that may sound, I paid very close attention to all the instructions and things that his perspective of life. Those conversations mean the world to me. And there's a side of him that I love very deeply, and I hope he's very happy in his relationships and in life. I was scared to reach out to him recently, and he had called me and we spoke for a while. And I wanted so bad to let him know that I'm okay. I wanted to hear that he was okay, and so was his child and the puppy dog, who touched my life greatly. Thank you for helping me to file the paperwork, be my strength, keeping the house safe, keeping it in order. for letting me stay as long as I did. I really wish things could have worked out long-term differently, but life is the way it is. I hope there's forgiveness. I forgive you for everything. And I know you're a very, very, very good person. And I know you care about people, especially in the LGBT community. I know that you do. And I know you care about your son very, very much. I know he's going to make you very proud over the years. I'm really sorry if any of this upsets you. I wanted to make sure that I keep names out. His son liked to play a lot of games and television. Some of the things that he played were kind of violent to me, and I was trying to nourish him away from it a little bit, but he really did enjoy it. I think we went on a bike ride or two together, and I would sit with him and talk. I wanted to have a very close relationship with him, and I do love him. So there was difficulties with that. Let's end with that. I ended up getting my means. I had to be patient and wait. The lady that I was on the phone with from the office in Cincinnati was absolutely incredible, and she remembered me being in the cat outfit or hearing of me in a cat costume, standing down at Fountain Square, busking, playing my guitar, and they moved super, super fast in getting my needs met. So I finally, ever since coming out here in 2009, February 2009, near the end of 2013, or was it in the beginning of 14, I finally, my own money. I don't have to escort. To a lot of people, not very much, but it was something to get me going. I finally had some form of health insurance, and I'd like to talk about that, because in my opinion, it's time, after all these years, that things start to become in our health care in America. It is sickening to me that a country up above can provide health insurance for its people, yet we slack. After all these years, we should have the best health care in the whole entire planet, in my opinion. And all of our health care should be taken care of. We're here for life, everyone. We shouldn't have to worry about whether or not we have any needs to get met when it comes to health care. Nobody should be hungry. There's plenty of homes for everyone. There are ways to combat. A lot of what is discussed in the public domain is lies, trickery. We have the means to be able to help each other. I kept talking to myself. It was acknowledged in the house. The child even said, Tracilyn's talking to herself again. One thing that I really appreciated is they both acknowledged me as female, at least in my presence. That meant the world to me. Especially when people aren't getting along the best, they have a tendency to disrespect that part of it just because I am a transsexual female. And I did not feel that vibration at all. So I'm very thankful for that. For anybody who always respected that, I identify as female. Okay, so I didn't know where to go, and I talked about that with the housing, and we're going to get ready to talk about this. But can I say, I didn't know where to go. I originally wanted to go to Hollywood, or I wanted to go to Nashville. I knew I wanted to live in a bigger city with more opportunities, more transsexual females to socialize with, hopefully. And the thing is after my Las Vegas trip, I realized I was burned when I went down to Nashville pretty badly. and I hope to share more of the details of that. I've shared it many times. Nashville is a beautiful city. It's much like Dayton. There's a lot more people, I guess, that kind of go into the inner city. The songwriters, the musicians, it's a music town. But can I tell you, be very careful, because there are evil, evil people in mainstream industry that will send people to you. They will feel you out. They will monitor you. They will bug you. They will invade your privacy. If you have hit songs, and chances are you do, they want in on it. Only they don't want to do it legitly. What's legitly? Legitly would be an agreement in writing, and you would get royalties as a writer. Okay? And if you're the publisher, same thing. See, they want the ideas, the overall concept. They don't want other people in on their... They don't want other people in on it. That's why you have a select few people, year after year, the same voices on the radio. They're nothing more special. If you got to know the people, to meet the people, see behind the scenes, you would acknowledge they're no one more precious than anyone else. Why are they worthy of a good life but nobody else is? Well, we all are. And we need to start standing up for our rights with people taking the measures and the steps to invade our privacies. Copyright your music for starters. It's a good start. Know that as soon as you put content out, if you notice it disappearing, there's a good chance somebody's using it in mainstream somehow, some way. They tend to remove things from Facebook, remove videos and stuff and music from YouTube and other social networks when they feel that the time has come that you might not hold that in your memory. I even had a picture literally zapped off of all my hard drives. A picture with me and Elvis Presley Jr. holding my ragtop Cadillac promotional CD. Together. He was in a black jacket. I had it posted on Facebook several times. Facebook took it down, not me. Facebook took it down. That picture is not on any of my hard drives anymore. Now, why is that? I still have other pictures of Elvis Presley Jr. I still have pictures of other people holding that promo CD, but not that specific picture. Okay, I know where I need to go. Lebanon. I was thinking about moving back to Lebanon. Can I tell you something really quick? We're going to speed this up now. Lebanon told me, the places that I called, that in order for me to transfer back to Lebanon, Pennsylvania with low income, then I would have to A, have family, I did, and B, live in the local area. However, it could take a couple years before I get in and I put my name on the waiting list. As soon as I put my name on the waiting list, it could take a couple years. I can't have a couple more years living with people. I really can't. I'm with people out of desperation. I'm not in a compatibility relationship. I've been getting kicked out over and over and over again. I can't keep being at people's mercies. Why is it so challenging? Mr. and Mrs. Government, why can't I get a voucher to stay at a hotel room or something until an apartment opens up? I even wanted to stay at the mental institution in 2009. I was willing to stay there until something came available. They said no. Insurance wouldn't cover it. Technically, lawsuit there, right? Yes, it was a lawsuit, a huge lawsuit. Unfortunately, you got to have an attorney that's willing to work with you. If there's one out there, I got lots of reasons to keep you busy. I'll help you get all the information. Ministries we can sue. That's right. All kinds of things. And I was thinking about moving down to Florida because I knew this was going to be a more definite thing, and I really wanted to be in nice weather. At that time, I'm thinking all the dreary weather that's here, gray skies, the wind, lots of rain. To me, this was my Seattle. Dayton, Ohio, to me, was my Seattle. A depressing place to be. Can I tell you, I don't feel that way now. I don't feel that way any longer. And I'm going to tell you why I don't feel that way any longer. It's amazing the healing that comes upon somebody as they start getting their life a little bit more in order and alignment to their idea of life. And some of their very important needs get met. I didn't learn this watching any ministry show. I took the reins in 2014 when I came to my apartment. And I stopped listening and falling into agreement with stupidity. Years of listening to these preachers talk, a lot of mixed, confused feelings. But what I really needed, I finally started to get, which was a support. I needed a net. I couldn't be on the streets. I didn't want to go to prison for being homeless. I didn't want to starve to death. And I couldn't be living with people anymore. I needed my own space. That solved a lot of challenges. Okay, we're almost done. We got a page and a half yet. Let's speed it up. So here we go. I could not, and that's how I ended up here, and I'm going to talk about this apartment in a later video. But just know this, I wanted to either move to Lebanon, I wanted to move into Cincinnati, is where I realized through my busking years would have been great for me, because as a solo singer-songwriter, acoustic guitar player, and entertainer, there was a lot to offer in Cincinnati that I noticed. And there was people actually actively doing things. I was connecting with people, so I thought it would be a try, right? Let's try living in Cincinnati. Well, I'll explain about that later on. Okay? I got an apartment. It was too small. I realized this, and it was way too high up for my depression, my paranoia, stuff like that. I could not live in that apartment. And I talked out of that. And I ended up getting where I'm at now, my apartment, in Dayton, Ohio. And Florida obviously was too far for my budget, and it was the same policy. You can't live here and get a low-income housing unless you have family and you're already located down here, basically. That's pretty much the standard policy throughout the United States, which in my opinion is BS. I really think that we should be able to put in for a transfer when you're low income. You should be able to put in a transfer. You should be able to move freely in the United States. And especially if you have psychological reasons and you can get it in writing, you should be able to submit for a transfer. And therefore, all expenses are covered. It's what makes sense to any level of intelligence. We were not made to be bolted down wherever we are and just sit until we die. You're going to hear me speak a lot about things that I disagree with once I actually start to get some net of needs met. Cost of living, the cost of real food versus the food that is available, limited options on where we live, how we live. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed. I'm somebody who has a lot of life and love inside of me. I don't feel that I'm selfish in any way for wanting to be free, to live the life that's inside my head. And if you're reading the Bible, know this, heaven isn't way up there above the clouds. Heaven's in your head. It's the perfect place, the life you desire. And when you read the Bible, you'll see that God wants to take you there. Words want to take you there and guide you. But you got to know the difference between the God of life, which Joyce or nobody else taught me. The difference between God of life and the remainder. I can really help people with all the things that I've come to learn. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but I've formulated a manner of thinking that is very beneficial and I feel many people can benefit. A lot of life's truths have been removed from a lot of people's teachings for whatever reason, or missed. I felt like there was little help or compassion in my moving. I took it upon myself, of course, to get 2 men in a truck. And the man that was in charge of the house left me have my bed, my headboard, my dressers, left me have some furniture pieces, a few plates and bowls, cups, silverware. And if I would have known, I didn't take as much because I know what it's like to live like a gypsy, and I knew that this apartment that I got at that time, I don't want to stay living here. You'll find out in my story that I didn't have a choice, Mr. and Mrs. Government. I didn't have a choice in where I lived. I had to take what was available. Thank goodness it's a very nice apartment, very well maintained. I'm blessed in that realm. I realized, and this might make it to YouTube personalities, one of them being Adam the Woo. Yes, Adam the Woo. You can type it in and you can get to see the woo. I realized that when I was busking on the street that these people were leading me or trying to lead me to somebody that plays bass. They were giving me subtle little hints, I guess, and hoping that I would acknowledge it on the internet. It became Adam the Woo. And what I realized is, I don't know if he's also receiving electronic harassment or if people are talking to him, communicating with him in public, but it gave me the illusion that he knew things about my personal life, of what I was talking about and what I was experiencing and doing in the privacy of my home while working on my music and doing on the street performances and stuff. I felt like these people, I'm 100% sure, that on my end, they were trying to lead me into a relationship, to connecting with him. I did reach out a couple times. I sent him a screensaver I made for him, and I also sent some kind of email or message to him. Now, I never heard back from him, so I assumed, for whatever reason, you know, whether he gets too many emails or whatever the deal is, that he didn't want to communicate with me. Or he didn't get the message, is usually what people say. But it's usually not in alignment. So that really bothered me, because everything I seemed to be talking about was appearing in his YouTube channels in some form. I don't want to go into all the details right now, because that's a whole psychological conversation. But it gave me the impression that him and a gentleman that are out in Hollywood that he's good friends with, that things that they were doing in their videos and stuff were kind of coinciding with things that I was talking about, discussing in the privacy of my home, or things that I was doing in my art. So it gave me the illusion that they knew directly. This is one of those probably indirectly. In other words, this Steven guy is monitoring me, invading my privacy, if you will, what I'm doing, and then he's also using the same electronic device to, or in connection with other people, to communicate with them. They're putting out their art, their videos, and it's kind of playing a little bit of mind games with me to kind of, it's like they're kind of trying to play matchmaker with us, meaning in some way, in a relationship or whatever, communications. I obviously had a really hard time with this, and I got extremely mad, because it appeared that he's a very, very friendly person on camera, very kind, very handsome, a whole lot of things, but the truth of the matter is, it really felt like he was actually one of the people that were invading my privacy by things that he would talk about and stuff. And what I realized is the odds of anybody giving other people like us on YouTube and stuff the means to be able to communicate with other people's minds or invade people's privacy most likely is not. Okay? Meaning that select few people have the means to be able to do mind control and thought invasion and shit like that. Excuse my language, and things like that. Okay, I mentioned about the whole, a little bit, I didn't talk a whole lot about Willie Nelson, but I have it written down here. I'm kind of getting tired. I want to finish this up. I mentioned about Willie Nelson because his production crew, I got to meet some of them. I sang my song Born to Be and a few other songs. And I had, some encounters with a very kind person within there, and within the company, if that's what it's called, a company, a production company. The thing is I really felt like somehow, because of what happened to me when I was on the streets busking, that Willie Nelson might be a corrupted person in the music industry when it comes to songwriters, who appear to give the illusion, at least, that they have a serious, serious mental problem, or they're going through life tragedies. Meaning, he uses them as inspiration, as a resource. I knew that one of the people that he is, friends with, obviously, Toby Keith, was very well connected to a publisher I met in Philadelphia, okay, who was a Nashville songwriter. He had songs that were listed on Toby Keith's albums. Okay, so I'm kind of stemming back from various conversations that I had with different publishing companies, different people that I met and crossed paths with in the industry. I'm beginning to realize that I have been used as a resource by people in mainstream music. Now, what does that look like? What does it sound like? We're going to find out, because I'm going to investigate a little bit more, and I'll touch some base with that. But know that one of this guy that I guess is in some kind of record company or something in Cincinnati, Mr. Shiny Shoes is what I call him. He was very handsome, very kind. He used to always ask me if I would play a song when he'd pass by. A few times he did anyway. And I would play like Miss Las Vegas, the song I wrote in Las Vegas, or one of my other songs. And I sang it with all my heart and tried to be happy. And he sent me an email that was very offensive, by the way, asshole, that basically the kind of person I'm going to be isn't, going to people's like house parties type thing, just gathering around at social events in people's houses and picking my acoustic guitar and singing songs. This guy, I forget what his name was, evidently Willie Nelson and a bunch of different people, I guess, sang this person's song or what have you. And unfortunately, if you ever notice, some of the songwriters appear that they have some kind of serious mental things going on in their head that might be much more than just major depression. And it seems to me that people in the music industry, like Elvis Enterprise, if you ever hear the story about the first song the father of rock and roll wrote, you hear this story, you would start to wonder how corrupted, and acknowledge how corrupted the music industry is. There is a lot of greed and selfishness within that. Is that the same thing? There's a lot of it. And let's just say that there's a lot more money involved in it than you and I know. And there's also a lot of power, especially in major hit songs. And that's what the power that be cares about the most, is they want the power. What they can do with society, with songs. And I will talk about that in future conversations in my videos. So know that I already know about this. I've been investigating it, and I also met a lot of people in the mainstream industry who were in and got out for various reasons. And it always seemed like there were, especially when you're talking with Christians, Christian people in mainstream music get targeted to the highest level, evidently because they think godly people are pussies. And that's a shame. I am not. I don't appreciate being used as a resource, and if I find out that anybody indirectly or directly has truly done it, then we can handle it in a public domain so other people are aware of it. Then maybe they won't be such a high horse on the radio anymore. Because who wants to support somebody who does that taken advantage of what the world would perceive as the less fortunate. In Dayton, Ohio was written at Huber Heights, and I walked down, and I think I shared this story. I walked down to the living room, and I turned on the television, and as soon as I turned it on, there was a news reporter that was mentioning about a tragedy that happened here in Dayton on Interstate 75, or was it 70, where a girl was pulled alongside the road in a car, and she jumped out in front of a semi-truck and killed herself. The truck couldn't stop in time. If you listen to my song on my website, in Dayton, Ohio, it's also on YouTube and Facebook video, that's the story that inspired that. That song was written in like 45 minutes. I cried my eyes out in my first bedroom, and I wrote the song down on paper. And when Daddy came home, he asked me, "Baby girl, what's wrong?" And I showed him the song. And I told him what happened, that I saw that this girl was hit by a truck in Dayton, Ohio. And it touched my life greatly. And I couldn't stop crying. He held me. He was very proud of me because he knew I had heart. He knew that I cared. I don't know if that was some form of electronic, when I turned on my television set, that was a falsehood of news. If anybody in the Dayton, Ohio area knows, I tried to do research on this. I think I did find an article online, but it would be in the Dayton paper most likely, or it would be within the local news. If you're out there and you hear this message, this was in 2010, so what I'm wondering is, in 2010, or within 3 or 4 years prior to it, was there a lady who parked her car alongside the interstate and jumped and committed suicide in front of a semi-truck? Please contact me with this information. I tried looking it up thereafter, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And what I've realized with these people that are electronically harassing me is it could be very possible, because I only had one other television situation that I'm aware of that happened, which was in Las Vegas. It could be very possible that they were psychologically trying to brainwash me to do that. Because when I came here, highly suicidal. Okay? When I came to Dayton, Ohio. And that's probably what contributed to me being such a great songwriter. And I had heart, and I could feel the pain of others. So if you get this information, you're from Dayton, you know about it, please send me at tracilyn21@gmail.com so I can have the information on the girl. Okay? I tried looking it up, I couldn't find it. Someday I might call the news and ask them. It would probably be in the library or the law, or not law, somewhere in the news media library. I also wrote Lake of Fire in my second room, where I was downstairs one day with Daddy when he was on the chair, and I actually got down on my knees. I was crying and begging for forgiveness, and he literally leaped out of the chair, and angry, and basically told me to go to my room. Okay, I have a very childlike mentality. I've been diagnosed by countless psychiatrists that all said I have a childlike mentality. So it's very important for me to be careful of the relationships I engage in, because some people see that as you're somebody who's less fortunate and easy to take advantage of. But mind you, I'm pretty sharp with my mind. I pay attention with my 5 senses to details. I wrote Lake of Fire there, and it was inspired to me by situations in our conversations with other people that were in the LGBT community, but they kind of knocked on prostitutes, or they knocked on adult entertainers. Hello, I'm here to say we're no different. A real prostitute is somebody who goes against the desires of their heart at any given time. So welcome to it. We're all prostitutes. I uploaded and I downloaded a lot of my media. Was up and then down, up and down. YouTube view counts, I mentioned, when I first started on my 50-song project, I uploaded a video. Mr. YouTuber, listen to this. Whoever you are, the person who thinks they own YouTube. Okay? I really value it for what it is for, sharing content. I don't appreciate the oppression, especially in the transsexual community at all. And I know it's because mainstream entertainment wants to dominate and control everyone and everything. And when somebody comes along that has great songs, is very good looking, has a heck of a life story, and isn't afraid to talk, and can talk very well, and is funny, you can rest assured that people are going to block the content, and they're going to use it as a resource and try to boot the person off the internet world. Why is that? I don't know, because you're going to find out in my life story that you're going to find out the explosion of Miley Ray Cyrus and some of the insight that I learned about other people in the music industry, and how all of a sudden there's an outburst of transsexuals all over the place. Meanwhile, not one of my songs could be cut. That's what they call it in the music industry. And not one person in mainstream would give me the time of day. Funny how now all of a sudden they're going out and doing the exact same things that I started to set foot to do in 2012. I actually seen a view count on one of my videos. I think it was Time to Pump It video, but I'm not 100% sure. And literally, Mr. YouTuber. And when I put this YouTube video and I uploaded it, I went over to watch the video, meaning I went to click on the video itself as a viewer, and I literally, I saw the view count going up like a speedometer, a digital speedometer on a car. Instantly. This was like soon after I just got started with my YouTube video projects. So I'm new to YouTube, and I already acknowledge this as suspicious. There's no way that many people are watching my video the second I uploaded it. People, do not believe the view counts you see. Do you really think that a recording artist is getting billions of views? Understand this. There is only 300 and some million people in our country. Abroad, I don't know what to say about that worldwide. What do you think makes their video? Sit back and watch it and wonder what makes their video that amazing, or that song that amazing that it would get billions of views. Do you think it's real? In a lot of situations, can I tell you, most likely not. And I know that may be upsetting to YouTubers, but I have learned on the flip side of it that view counts are not real in videos. Subscriptions, not real at all. They can change those numbers around anytime they want to. They can give and they can take away. It's an illusion for people who are viewing the content. This is what's popular, this is what's not. Look, you can have a heck of a song, absolutely outstanding video, and guess what? You only have 3 or 4 views. Let me ask you something. Do you like the video and do you like the song? That's what you should be paying attention to, and you might want to listen to the words in the song, because it may be sharing a very valuable message that other people of the world don't want you to hear because it's of truth. And maybe they're blocking that person because they don't want other people to realize that somebody was already trying to make their way, and whoop, when they fell on hard times and went online, instantly they were blocked. Okay, that's not my story. My story is, first they gave the illusion that there was 20-some thousand people interested in my 50-song webcam upload. Was it real? Was it not real? Seems pretty high for if you listen to my webcam videos. It was pretty awful in the sound, crackling and stuff, but it's what I had to use, and I'm very proud of that moment. It's what I had to use. I'll always cherish those times. Don't believe view counts. Don't believe subscribers. Know this, on my social media pages, on Facebook, it went from like 3,500 or 4,500 views all the way down to 800 and 700. Now, how did it go backwards? I'll tell you why. Because somebody has access to my account within the Facebook community, and they changed it. And they also took down pictures continuously. They also take down videos continuously on YouTube. They block them. All I'm trying to do is make my way through life. They even took down one of me in Walmart with a tiger head on, a costume head. I was laughing, and you can see it. It's on my Facebook again. But why would they take that down? They took down some of the most ridiculous stuff. I've been through enough. I don't need to be harassed on Facebook. I don't need to be harassed on YouTube. And by the way, it's a public means to be able to communicate with the human race. There should be laws, serious laws, that govern and check in on these people, because we become dependent once we're on there for it to be a form of communication with other earthlings. And they should not have the right to block us. They had my Facebook go all the way over to a whole nother country for, I don't know if it was a couple months or a few weeks. It was only, my Facebook would only be seen by people in another country. That's all I was getting. They put my Facebook into another country. I'm not going to another country. I'm trying to navigate my way around America and connect with other people who might find me interesting. Facebook needs to seriously, they probably already know exactly what's going on, and they do it to many people. But if they don't, they need to acknowledge what's going on and do something about it. It's not fair for life. It's not fun and games to a person who knows that they are dependent on, I'm around electronics right now. This is my camera. This is my human interaction. I'm not trying to upset anybody. With me sharing my life story and everything, it was hopes of coming out of all of this trauma and having life with somebody who would appreciate me, or people that would appreciate me. And blocking my content, taking content down, number one, is childish. Number two, it's absolutely absurdly should be illegal. You're smoldering somebody's life. You're putting a choke on them. For the first time in my life when I was doing a 50-song project, I just want to say that it felt great meeting people in my cat costume, transsexual female here, Tracilyn the female, not who I was born in a worldly sense and all that other stuff. And they invited me to play live shows. They invited me to various outings to hang out. They weren't afraid to hug me. I kissed a lot of people on the cheek. Got to hug children. It felt good to be finally accepted for being Tracilyn. Can I tell you, I called it hanging out. I left it all hang out on the internet. I left it all hang out, and because I love children, I was trying to be family friendly. Okay? And therefore, yes, I do have like the schoolgirl outfit on, the cheerleading, or like wearing a short skirt and doing a fitness video and stuff like that. I made these videos because I was expressing myself artistically. I always wanted to be a model. Not a supermodel, I just wanted to model. You know, I wanted to, just like the girls I seen in TV Guide or in adult magazines, etc., etc. But I left my clothing on. I was not naked. I look at body as an art. I was very proud and happy with my transition, and I'm okay to share that. And I did put things on adult only with my content. And if you watch it, let me tell you, people in mainstream music do far worse. And they don't flag it. They get billions of hits, right? But then somebody else comes along from the Midwest and puts themselves out there in a short skirt and panties revealing, and all of a sudden what? And my diaper video. They downed my diaper video. People were finding it of interest, and they totally eliminated it from the YouTube. They blocked it, took it down. It was a one-time deal. I wasn't planning on making a whole bunch of them. I was very proud of it artistically. I felt led into a children's rock and roll ministry. Children wear diapers, so I wore a diaper. It's a long story I already explained. Check out some of my other videos. I would have been happy doing a diapers commercial for like Loves or Pull-Ups or something. With music and stuff. Not with little race cars and maybe little flowers and something cute. Little horsies on it or something. Disney characters. V-Cat. The V-Cat diaper. You can get it at a retail store near you today. Car parking. I already talked about that with the corns of my car. That hurt me a lot. Still have dents on it. We used to go out to eat for Chinese and as a girls' night out, and I love the Chinese restaurant. It's classy. It's a nice atmosphere. It's elegant. And we used to all gather around. I miss those days. I wish a bunch of us girls could get together and go to that Chinese restaurant for the food. I really did like the Chinese food that they served there. And that was my favorite at the social times whenever we would go out to eat. I always looked forward to going to the Chinese restaurant and getting the fortune cookie. I love fortune cookies very much. I don't know how much time is here, so what I'm going to do is, believe it or not, I only have one more page. I'm going to save everything that I've done this far onto my computer. And when I do, I'm going to get a new battery, and I'm going to reformat my drives, my, what are these things called? I'm going to reformat that so that I have space to finish this up. And then I'm finally done. And can I tell you, I started off with this, I wanted to go outside because I'm indoors a lot since I've been here in 2014. I'm an outdoorsy person my whole life. My music's very, 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 very important to me, and I'm dealing with, depression. I'm dealing with my bipolar disorder. I'm dealing with PTSD. I'm dealing with all the traumas I had throughout my life. And can I tell you, music has been the most therapeutic means, and sharing my life story with you has been absolutely amazing. I have a wonderful psychologist right now. She has been very, very, very helpful. It means the world to me that I have her in my life to talk to. If I didn't have her, I don't know what I would do. I would like to start, connecting with other people. And that's why I was really upset when I found out that Facebook and YouTube blocks my content. If I could find a good lawyer, I would love to sue the crap out of those people. They're tampering with my life. I put the content out. My hope is to connect with others who would appreciate me, the real me. My whole life could have been different. Your life could be different if Facebook just leaves their sloppy hands off of your account. If YouTube stops playing around with it, changing your views and stuff. Let it be real. If somebody really got it in the mainstream industry, do you know how easy it is to make somebody a Billboard top? Number 1, number 2? It's as easy as taking a name and putting it up to the top, the song. Don't believe everything that you hear. How does a song become number 1 anyway? Don't you think that people have reasons why they want that song to be number 1? Do you realize that it's our belief system that makes and forms the life that we have and that we receive? And if we believe that any band, Bon Jovi, Kiss, Madonna, Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift, if all these people are the main hit songwriters and they're the ones with all the talent, and we just take their songs and put them up top, do you know that if it's at number 1, we're going to believe that they have a number 1 hit on the radio? But how do we know if it's true? How did it become number 1? Did anybody ever investigate the means that they say is a hit song? Did they look over the royalties it collected? Because if it's a number 1 hit song, there is a very, very good chance that it made some finances, unless it was a free download. These are things to ponder and think about. Don't believe a song is a number 1 hit song because you've been told it is. And don't think because somebody's standing under a light on a stage and singing that they're all that you think they're cracked up to be. They're no different than you and me. And if you even looked into the story of the father of rock and roll, and you evaluated and you studied and researched the king of rock and roll, you might start to put some things in order of understanding that an image, which Elvis has said, is one thing. An image is made up, carefully orchestrated, for whatever purposes people want to have that image for. And it's usually in a means that if we become acknowledged to, we would be very disappointed and upset that we ever cared for image. I say, in closing with this for now until I start up the new videos, consider this. Instead of being supportive of images, why don't we start being more supportive of life and forget about the image is a perspective that varies and changes throughout the human race, no matter how consistent they try to make it. A life form is a precious gift that is an offering from God in the now. Many recording artists, for instance, this was my thing. I wanted to be very open with the fact that I'm a transsexual female. I didn't want to have to hide it. I actually wanted to use my talents and my life story in efforts of helping the transsexual female and the transsexual community at large. People, LGBT, generalized. Do you realize that we're all transitional existences? Do you realize that we all, in our nature, are LGBT? Be careful of all the details that we agree upon. For it's written in Scripture that in heaven, in spirit, there is no male or female. And therefore, if there's no male or female, there can't be gay, lesbian, and all that other stuff. There's the spirit. It's our way of thinking that matters. To one person, gay doesn't exist. To another person, they get all disgusted from it. Or they had bad experiences in their life. I'm sorry if you did. We all had some kind of experiences. And I remember thinking to myself as I was coming out that if some of my rock and roll heroes or people I admired on television would have been more honest with the fact that they were Twinkies, then maybe the world would be a better place because people would calm down and they would realize that being gay isn't really, look, it's a big deal to people who are going through hard times, but in essence, being gay is a state of mind and it's not that big of a deal. It's not as big as a deal as we make it, meaning it's beautiful when two people love each other, if only for the hour or for the moment. To each his own, what they desire. What's agreed upon between two people, okay, is beautiful. When two people can be in an agreement, yeah. So with that being said, Tracilyn had come out here in 2009 off of the bridge declaring that God is calling me into a rock and roll ministry, and I am going through the most difficult. I don't know what to do. Nothing's clear. Can I tell you it's becoming more clear? I realize more and more every day. That's why I want to empty out this toxic things that I have been through, the thoughts that I don't want with me, weighing me down. I only want to see the beauty in my life, the beauty in my relationships while living at Huber Heights, the beauty in my relationships with Catherine, and living at the apartment in Beaver Creek. All the beautiful life I had since the day I was born. I invested way too much time thinking of all the things that I perceived as very hurtful, and it destroyed me mentally. I don't want to give power to the enemy, so to speak. There was life that is there for me ever since I was born. That's why I'm still here. I want to live. I am no longer suicidal. I don't want to die. I want to live a long, beautiful life. And I'm hoping I can someday connect with someone special or a few people and that I do have a rock and roll ministry. For the first time in my life, I have a vision. And I know the difference between a dream and a vision. For me, what it means. The vision's realistic. The dreams are things wished for, never to come. So, with that being said, I love you, and I hope none of this upsets anybody that hears it. If you got this far, that's not my intent. I want to cleanse myself. I do not ever want to upset somebody, except for those who are worthy of being upset. If you used me as a resource through privacy invasion, directly, indirectly, know that I hope you get bitch slapped. You chose the wrong person to do it to, and it's going to come back to get you one way or another. That's how faithful and true my God is, the God for my life, who loves me great.